Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you don't mind that I'm doing a voiceover for this video, but it was going to be like a chatty craft with me and would have ended up being well over an hour long, even with me speeding bits up and cutting out some of my ramblings. So this is a very, very different video to what I normally share on my channel. This is a DIY dice tower to use in Dungeons and Dragons D&D. So I've started playing D&D. My best friend John runs a game every Wednesday, and I've surprised myself at how much I've enjoyed playing it, actually. And the other night I couldn't sleep and went down the complete rabbit hole of YouTube and found somebody called James Chats, who makes loads of different bits for D&D, and he had created a dice tower using everyday rubbish. So the main thing that he'd used were loo rolls. So I decided to give it a go. And as I say, I was originally doing quite a chatty, this is what I'm doing, here are all my stuff. But the video just ended up well over an hour long. So I got all my resources together. I needed loo rolls, obviously, so I've grabbed some loo rolls. I also needed an egg box. So I took the lid off of our egg box and I just have some chocolates to treat myself because I was currently filming this with COVID, so just giving myself a little treat. But this is for the texture, basically, that you need the egg box for. I also needed just some regular cardboard, and I just had like an Amazon package laying on the stairs, so I thought that's perfect. So I think he used like a cereal box in his. And I also need loads of glues and things, which I've got tons of different ones. And then these are my favourite scissors, and I spend ages explaining to you why I love Fiskars so much, but I really do. And these ones are spring loaded, kind of like a spring action scissors, so they're really good when my joints are bad. And these are my favourite scissors of all time. And then, as I say, I need loads of adhesives. I've got hot glue, E6000, loads of different things in the drawer, and we'll just kind of see what I need as and when we carry on. So without further ado, and I have to be completely honest with you, this does not go very well for quite a lot of this, but I'll tell you what I do anyway. And I just wanted to take a moment to share with you my dice. So I don't have any fancy ones. These are just plastic ones I bought on Amazon for school, but these are tetrahedron dice, and that's what I'm making the dice tower for. And I did have a video a long time ago of how I store those dice and counters, which I will link below if you're interested in that. So I cut the first loo roll in half and then took some cardboard and then just placed it on the edge terribly and shot. Ran out of lead on that pencil, swapped to a pen, and I drew some little semicircles using the edge of the loo roll to create some barriers down on the insides to kind of tumble the dice as it falls down. So then I cut those out with my scissors, obviously, and then I don't know what I did after that. Took a really long time cutting, apparently. I trimmed the edges slightly because I wanted the die to be able to fall down the loo roll. And then James Chats, he did test his a lot. I did not. I went for the wing it option, which was probably not the best option. I plugged in my hot glue gun just to warm it up and then started drawing kind of a doorway at the bottom of my tower. And I put one of those halves inside just to reinforce it. I needed to keep making it a little bit bigger just to make sure that my die would fall out the bottom. And then I just had to cut that out. It didn't go as well as I'd hoped. Kind of hoped for more of an archway, and it became a little bit square, but I ended up chopping loads more of it off later on anyway, so I suppose it doesn't really matter too much. And then what did I do next? Started making the base. So in his video, he had quite a short run, and I decided to make mine a little bit longer. I drew around the existing loo roll, sort of showed where the doorway was, and then used a ruler to kind of extend that down, and then curved it off again using the loo roll at the other end. I spent ages cutting this out and doing this, and this did not work. So I would not do it this way around again next time. When I dropped the dice down, it just wasn't rolling to the end, and I thought it just looked really silly. So I did decide to trim it down slightly, which I did next. And then trimmed the kind of tabs for in the middle a little bit more because I was just worried about the dice falling down. And then I started hot gluing them to the two halves. Again, I would not do this again because they didn't really fit inside the loo roll properly. Where I'd only cut one in half and then tried to put it inside another loo roll, they just didn't fit very well. And yeah, it just didn't work brilliantly. I did make sure I reinforced the little tabs on both sides with extra hot glue just to kind of make them really strong and make them last. I did 2 on one side, top and bottom, and then on the other half I did 1 in the middle, but I got a phone call so I lost a lot of that footage, so that's me showing you that they are now done. I put them inside and started to test them, didn't really think about the fact that they wouldn't then both fit inside, and just went gung-ho with dark glue, absolutely covered it and tucked it inside. Had an absolute mare doing that, ended up having to trim it, trying to do that inside. It just, yeah, that is not the way I would recommend next time. I trim the edges of these just to try and help them fit a little bit more. They still did not fit. I ended up cutting it in half in the end and then putting them top and bottom instead. So I got them in eventually, but it doesn't look very neat at the top. But hey ho, we got there in the end. So for the next little while, you'll just see me keep constantly faffing with this because I just wasn't happy with it. And when I tried rolling the dice down it, it then just wasn't working very well. So I just wasn't very happy. I kept shoving my finger in, trying to bend the tabs in all different ways. I'm not sure exactly what I did wrong, but I did it wrong either way. And yeah, I just ended up getting a bit ragey when I didn't feel well either. And it took me a really, really long time. I then spent some time gluing this to the base and then trying to cut some strips of cardboard to create a base. And as I say, I would not do it this order again because the way that James Chats did it is that he kind of created the sides and then made a base afterwards. And that's the way I ended up having to do it because the way that I've tried to do just wasn't working at all. So you'll see me here attempt the first go where I've cut sort of, I can't think how big I cut the strip of cardboard. I think it was about 1 inch. And also the bit that I'm cutting has got a sticker on the other side. So it probably wasn't the best piece because it didn't bend that brilliantly. I ended up having to trim it with scissors because the trimmer couldn't even get through it with the sticker as well. I tried to bend this around the outside, but to try and attach it to that base was really, really hard. All I kept doing was burning myself. I even tried, as I say, gluing that onto the base, and all I ended up doing was creating a blister on the end of my finger. So I eventually scrapped this. I probably should have just deleted all this footage, but I wanted to show you that, you know, this happens, mistakes happen, it is what it is, we do our best. I basically just ended up ripping it all apart. Not sure how long it takes me to rip it all apart, but that's where I'll eventually get to. There we go, taking it off. Start again. So I've cut another 1 inch strip out of that same piece of Amazon box. I, this time, again, have to trim it with the scissors because it won't go through. I spend some time bending it using my fingers. Then I glue that onto my base. I glue my tower onto sort of just a big piece of cardboard. I spend some time putting some glue along the edge of that strip that I made and on the 2 ends to now create kind of my courtyard as such. I keep faffing with it until the shape is what I like. And then I ended up going around and reinforcing that slightly with some hot glue all the way around the outside just to try and seal it up, I suppose. The back wasn't sticking very well. I don't know if it's just because I've got cheap hot glue sticks or I don't know, was going wrong again. But I ended up going to one of my boxes and getting some washi tape. I've got some Scotch brand washi tape and I ended up taping around the outside of that just to kind of hold it in place. And I thought, to be honest, once it's painted, you won't notice. And this stopped the kind of edges of the cardboard being quite so prominent as well. It kind of rounded it off around the back. So it worked out okay in the end. It was starting to peel up a little bit, so I ended up running some hot glue over the top like a bit of a sealant. Tested it again and my dice was coming out a bit better, so I was quite pleased with that. So now what I had to do, as I say, just seal that tape with a bit of hot glue and then cut around the base. So I think I did that roughly and then went back in and did it a little bit neater afterwards. And what I also try and do in a minute, which was quite difficult, was run some hot glue around the inside of that sort of courtyard area. You see me trying to do it there. Again, just to seal it up and just to really reinforce it. So let's chop that out now, hopefully. That's what I'm going to do. Oh, I cut the doorway a little bit more because I still wasn't happy with how the dice was coming out. His just kind of flew out and mine keeps getting stuck at the bottom, so I'm not sure, as I say, exactly what I've done that's wrong, but it's alright. It's working better now that it's kind of painted and whatnot, which you'll see in a bit, obviously. So that's now my little thing, and I think I'm going to share with you how it rolls in a second. I will show you how it rolls properly in a second, but before I did that, I forgot. I actually cut out a little piece of felt to go in the bottom. I'm not sure, I haven't finished it, whether or not this will be in the final product, but I just drew around the outside, but then cut the felt smaller than that, and then just kept kind of trimming it until it kind of fitted into that courtyard area that I've created. And as I say, it's not entirely finished. I'm waiting for one of the coats of paint to dry while I'm starting to edit. So I'm not sure if that will be in the final product because it might slow down the dice. So we shall see if that made it to the final cut. But yeah, I just thought it might give it quite a nice little effect and help the dice come out because it might have been slippery. I then started to cut up my egg box, and then what I did is took off the sticker on the back of it and then used my trimmer to cut little strips. I can't think how big they were. They were less than a centimetre. I probably, if I did this again, would make them a little bit thicker. And then I just trimmed them. And here are all the little bricks essentially that I've made. And what the plan was, I probably should have sped this bit of the video up as well, is to glue them all over the tower. And I started with hot glue and then thought I'm going to have 1,000,001 burns if I keep doing this. So I had a little rummage around in my drawer and I did find the Nuvo glue pen that I love and actually did work quite well. However, it would have taken me a really long time to pump glue out onto every single brick. So you do see me stick one on and it works fine. But as I say, I couldn't imagine doing that for the entire tower. And where it's a wet glue, you have to sit and hold it on, which I just wasn't loving the idea of. I then kind of had a little rummage around my craft room and I found I've got the Tombow Mono liquid glue. So I stuck a couple of bricks on using that, which you'll see me do next. And again, they stick well, but I wasn't sure how long they would stay stuck for, in the sense that the hot glue would, I would hope, keep these quite permanent, but I've never had much luck with the Nuvo or the Tombow glue being quite permanent, so then I was worried that that wouldn't last. So I do stick a couple of bricks on using this glue, and as I say, it works just fine. And what I do is I stick 2 on the top row, just to kind of show you the pattern that I'm going to go for. But the one that I do on the next row down, I stagger it. So I kind of stick it halfway between the 2 bricks I've already put on. And then the plan is all the way down the tower to stagger them like that to kind of create a brick pattern. So I decided not to film that because I just don't have a lot of memory on my phone. But that's what I'm going to be doing. And then you'll see in a moment once it's gone all the way down. Okay, so I've ended up hot gluing these and got it literally all over me and burnt myself like 1,000,000 times. But it was just quicker than trying to hold every piece on while it dried. And what I think I'm going to do, because there's so much glue and just you can see the scotch tape and everything else, I think what I'll do is spray paint this grey, because I don't have like black or anything. If I just spray paint it grey and then paint over the top, at least it gives me kind of a surface. So that's kind of the plan. But one thing that the guy's tutorial, James Chats is the channel, one thing he did is he glued some coins to the bottom just to give it a bit of weight, because it is quite light at the moment. So I've pulled out my little Harry Potter money bank, and then I'm thinking that maybe I could use just some 2p's across the back of this, maybe to fit that way. Yeah, they should just kind of fit like that. So I'm just going to quickly glue those on like that.
You had me at hello, 'cause where you go is where I go. I don't need nobody else. I got you, and you got me too.
So let's just grab, I've got a D8 here. Let's grab, actually, no, let's grab a couple of D12s. Pop them through. I mean, they do come out. I do find that mine sometimes sticks at the bottom like that one. And you just slide it across like that. And then you can see them. But I'm not sure why I keep getting it sticking like that. Yeah, so my spray paint is actually in the shed. So I'm going to go and get the spray paint and probably spray it outside in the garden, let that dry, and then come back up here either later on tonight or tomorrow and then make it look a little bit neater. So yeah, happy with it so far. Not over the moon with it, but happy with it. I like the noise as well. Anyone that likes any sort of dice game will appreciate that little noise. I keep getting really low rolls though. Probably won't use this if I keep getting really low rolls. Is there a way? Let's see. Nah. There you go. One final change is I've just added a few little makeshift bricks around the top just to kind of hide where I've put more than one loo roll in there. So yeah, that's it so far. Have I got a dice to hand? I do. I have D12. Beautiful. Ah! Nat 12. Love it. I couldn't have done that better if I tried. So I did spray this, but the Poundland spray paint that I had that I thought was grey was actually a metallic silver, so that was rubbish. So I've just pulled out some acrylic paint, so I've got like a dark grey, a gloss black and a white. I've just got a load of brushes and some foam brushes as well and a cosmetic sponge. So I decided to start off with using this dark grey. It says So Crafty on it. I feel like it might be a Poundland one, but I didn't buy this. I think this was given to me. And I decided to go through and paint between all of the grout lines with this. So this took me a while to do that. But then I decided, do you know what? I just need to give it a base colour to hide all of this metallic silver. So I actually ended up covering the really dark grey colour.
You can ride all the blue. I wanna do what you want to. We can leave and run away someday. I've been saving you, and you save me too. Yeah, I need it, don't you need me too? 'Cause I need you. Yeah, so call me anytime that you need a favor. Call me anytime I can come and save you. Call me anytime that you need a friend, and call me anytime when you're out of time. And you, I got you, and you got me too.
So once the dark grey was completely dry, I went in to make a lighter grey to kind of go over the bricks. So I used that same dark grey, so crafty paint and some white from Hobbycraft, and I just mixed them together. The colour came out a little bit too light, so I did try to darken it with the grey and didn't realise it was the black. Then dropped the black into the paint. Oh, it was a mess. But I just mixed that in anyway, and it created like a dark grey. And I went to start putting it on with a brush and thought this was going to take me ages, but then remembered, and also I went into the grout, so I had to touch that up. I remembered I had these like sponge dauber brushes that I picked up in a charity shop a while back. So I loaded that up with paint, and then if you did that gently enough, it only went on the bricks and not sort of the grout lines, so that worked out beautifully. And then I forgot about this really when I did the sort of next coats, but I probably could have used that for some of the rest that I did. So yeah, so I just kind of went over and coloured the bricks in a little bit of a lighter grey, and then let that dry overnight. And then I came back to it the next day and then started trying to kind of create effects to it. So I again mixed up some paint, so I've got the same grey, I've got white again, but I made it a much lighter white once I mixed it. That was Matt stealing it to have a look. And I then started trying to use the dry brush technique that I've seen on a lot of channels, where you wipe all the paint off of your brush and then you have like the smallest amount that you brush on. And it went quite well, and then I made it lighter again, did the same technique, I just used the same brush, I thought it would work fine. And then it didn't really have any depth. Even though I was using different shades of grey, I felt like it needed some more colour. So I poured out these Artist Loft acrylic paints, and then I can't remember the name of this one, but obviously you can see it's like a yellowy brown, and then this one is a dark brown. And then I tried to use the dark brown first on its own, and it just kind of dried up. So I got a little bit more, had another go, and then I used a little bit more of the kind of the lighter colour, and I mixed it in with some of that sort of whitish grey that I had as well. And I just kept going over and over it to kind of create a sort of aged effect to it. And then that's me taking a bit more of the dark brown and the lighter brown and mixing them together this time. Chucking that over and then trying to create a bit more of a stone effect. And I enjoyed doing this. I don't know that I've done it a very good way. I don't know that it looks the way that it should, but who knows, it's my first go. So I kept just adding colour as and when I thought it was necessary. I also added a bit more colour on the inside of the tower because it was just that dark grey and I thought it looked a little bit bland. So I've taken a little bit of brown and a little bit of grey and mixed them together to get sort of some contrast in there because it became a little bit too light. And then this is me then doing the inside a little bit more, because I realised that I hadn't done any of sort of the inside of the courtyard, and again it was just that flat dark grey colour. So I just kind of used everything that was already on my cardboard. I haven't got any paint palettes here, mine are all at school, and obviously I'm not at school at the moment because we're still testing positive and I can't come out of isolation yet. Then I took some of the white that I've been using for a different project, which I'm not sure which order they'll go up. But I took a bit of white and a little bit of that light brown, kind of mixed those together a little bit to add a bit more highlights onto this. And then I realised that I needed to do what's called a black wash. So people that make this kind of thing regularly will know exactly what I'm talking about. I had no idea what a black wash was. So I went on to YouTube, I watched a few different tutorials and I settled on one by Black Magic Crafts. I think his name's Jeremy, because it was the easiest one. You'll notice here that I'm just adding some of this kind of more reddish brown that I found that I had while I was doing a different project, and I just went back and added a bit more colour, realised it was a bit too reddy brown and then added more grey. So it's just really trial and error with this to get it to work. But yeah, so back to the black wash. I gathered some materials. I got some just plain water. I got a jar. I got some dish soap, like some fairy liquid. Then I first off put some black in with the water, and I went way too heavy with this. I would definitely recommend next time doing a lot less paint to begin with. I had to keep adding water. It was still really dark, and I ended up pouring most of this away into a bowl that I happened to have nearby, and then really diluting it. Sorry, the dog's playing with a toy next to me if you can hear him. So just kept adding water to the little jar until it was a little bit paler. Then realised it was too pale, added a bit more of the dark colour, and then added some dark brown acrylic paint and some green acrylic paint, because that was his suggestion, to make it look more like dirty water rather than just pure black. And then it was a little bit too green, so took in a little bit more black from my bowl. And then just kept doing that until I was happy with the colour. Added a tiny bit more black here. And then you just need to add a couple of drops of fairy liquid to it at the end as, what did he call it? I can't think, but it's like a carrier, and it helps it seep into all the nooks and crannies. So I did that, and with the bowl, I took it and I poured it into a container in a little while, just to save it going to waste. But what I did is I took a big fat paintbrush that was a little bit damp, and I took this wash and I wiped it all over my dice tower. And to be honest, it wasn't very dark. I definitely could have done with a little bit more paint in this. So I went and just had a little look in my empties and found an empty micellar water bottle, which is what I then took the bowl and poured that into. But just before I did, it seemed to be a little bit darker, so I ended up adding a little bit more paint to that bowl. In fact, actually, the bowl was really pale, so I added paint and I mixed this because I just didn't want it to go to waste. I'm a bit frugal like that sometimes. So I added some colours into the bowl until I was happy with it. Did the same thing with the washing up liquid. Probably used a little bit too much. It's made it a little bit bubbly. But again, I can add more water, more paint if I need to. But just go on the sort of conservative side, I would say. Don't add too much straight away. So there's me drizzling in some fairy liquid. And then I went in and because that was darker, I went back over my project. And that was a much better black wash. So that one is definitely better. When I poured it, though, into the micellar bottle, though, it just poured all over the sides. I only managed to save about half of it, which was a shame. And probably should have cut the bit out while I'm doing that, so you're not just staring at my table. But yeah, the only thing that's annoying with the bottle is the sticker's left like a really horrible residue all over it. So you'll see it's just covered in the sticky residue, but I kept the black wash so I can use that for future projects. And I've got my little tub one as well. So I'm just waiting for that to dry now while I'm editing this part of the video. And then I think I'm going to need to go in with a little bit more dry brushing. So the following day, once that black wash was dry, I just did one final dry brushing coat. I used a combination of grey, white, black and brown acrylic paints to do that. And once I was happy with it, I just went in with that felt and just trimmed it to fit and used a combination of E6000 and hot glue to attach that to the bottom as sort of a finishing touch. And I'm pleased I did that because I was able to kind of make a ramp with that, so it worked out quite well.
We can always make it through. What we do is what we do. I can take you anywhere, somewhere. We won't be scared. You will see me flying high. I'm staring into your blue eyes. We don't need nobody else. I got you, and you got me too. I've been saving you, and you save me too. Yeah, I need it, don't you need me too? 'Cause I need you. Yeah, so call me anytime that you need a favor. Call me anytime I can come and save you. Call me anytime that you need a friend, and call me anytime when you're out of tight and you. I got you. You got me, got me. You got me, got me. You got me too. Got me, got me. I've been saving you, and you save me too. Yeah, I need it, don't you need it too? 'Cause I got you, and you got me too.
Okay, so that is now completely finished. I feel like it's very grey, the tower. I think I need to get better at my painting. I have got some sort of more browner elements in the stones down here. But I'm just feeling like this is a little bit boring. I mean, I do have a bit more brown paint drying on there, but then the paintbrush I'm using, I think, just keeps making it a bit grey. But even kind of dry brushing this on kind of isn't giving it quite the effect that I want. So I think I'm going to stop here-ish. Just a little tiny bit more on the front. Maybe try and snip in a little bit of this brown. Oops, a bit too much white now. Add in a bit of grey. Yeah, you can kind of see the texture of the egg carton coming through, which you could see in James's video. So it's giving that kind of cobblestoney appearance. And then I did end up adding the felt in the end because it just saved me painting the bottom, and it meant I could kind of create a ramp onto that final platform that I'd done where they weren't rolling out as much as I'd hoped. So let's go for a D6. A 3. Rubbish. Try 12. 2. Terrible. The 20 fits down just fine. Oh, natural 1. That's awful. Try again. 4. Not great. And you can roll. I haven't got 2 D20s to hand, but you can roll with advantage or disadvantage, so roll in 2 at the same time. So I'm really, really pleased with that. And I'm going to take that along to my next D&D game and just randomly get out a dice tower and start playing that way. Now, imagine if I got a D20 on camera. It'd be amazing. I did catch one earlier. I think I shared it with you. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that. And it was a really fun little project to make. So thank you to the tutorial from James Chats. I will have linked that in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed seeing this. I know D&D might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's mine. And I enjoyed making this and I enjoyed sharing it with you all. So if you like this, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I have some more D&D projects coming your way. So if it is something that you're interested in or just seeing crafts in general, then obviously please subscribe, and it would be lovely to have you on board with the channel. Oh, I can see a bit of cardboard there. Quick. Good job I haven't washed up my brushes yet, isn't it? Just add in a little bit there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm actually going to invest in some EPS foam even, and create some terrain and different things like that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed having a look. I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm going to finish my other project so that I can get that video edited, and I'll see you again in my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.